All right, welcome to Raising Funds for World Domination, Day 54. So, here's the standard intro. Once again, there is no substantial changes. Next hearing is still not scheduled yet. So we'll continue on with, I guess the last couple of streams. These are the first couple up until now that I've had a couple of people waiting before the stream actually starts. It kind of freaked me out. Last time someone chatted before the stream started. I was like, wait, did I click live? Go live by accident? So I assume you couldn't, you didn't see any, it was just dark before those first couple of chats. Yoshi, have I got that right yet? Yoshikaka Kira says, hello, here before stream starts. Here before stream starts as well. Found an exploit. We can find your streams before they start. I think I figured it out. I should change. I think I got the window too wide. Let me adjust the chat window. All right, that looks better. Found an exploit. Is it really an exploit? I assume you can probably just go. My guess is probably if you go to my page and then just like as soon as I click create a stream, it probably creates the stream entity. But I guess up until now, nobody bothered to. Because I think probably because I don't schedule them or anything. There's no one really anticipating it until now. All right. So we'll continue where we left off yesterday. Hacking King. Is that what I am? Sentry? Or is that what you are? Okay, so game still works. I think we're on the latest version. So today, I'm just working on a new data structure. So I made some test cases. So it did not crash. So what I'm doing, I added a couple of things to it today. So I'm writing the test cases to be generic. So I have these. I have some classes and data structures to kind of like generalize this coordinate systems. So I have this concept of like just coordinate, which is straightforward, but then I made up this concept called like a cuboid address. So for describing like square regions of space in like 1, 2, 3, 4 dimensional space. So you basically just pass in two coordinates of the highest and lowest vertices of either a square or a cube or hypercube or whatever. So that lets me, right, so first we'll do one dimension. So that'll give me just a regular standard circular buffer. And then I can just change that to 2 in the test case, and the test case will be basically identical. So I added some stuff to test setting. And if you set it something outside, if you try to set it a coordinate that's outside of it, you'll get an exception. And it tests for the presence or the correct presence or absence of the exception. Frida La Jolla says, "Hey Robert, how's it going?" And make sure the value is correct. Galactic Past says, "Hello Robert." Let me just adjust the monitor. I still have that. I'm gonna have to figure out a better way, an issue. Is this JUnit 4 or 5? I actually don't know. JUnit 4, I guess. I think this is using JUnit. Does this use JUnit? I don't even, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with JUnit, but Robert's seen your videos, several topics. I think you're so unhinged and neutral on several topics. I guess, I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Bell Rhymes says, "Hello, how are you?" "I'm doing well. How are you?" Add test as a JUnit automation. Okay. Thank you for the hearts. A good thing. Excellent. I am satisfying the audience's desire for unhinged and neutral topics. Are you advancing in your project? Slowly but surely. There's one main feature I want to finish, which is the data structure I'm working on now. And that data structure is going to be used for more efficiently advancing through the world. It's going to use a circular buffer for basically, like, you know, as I load the chunks and the blocks in the world, then they'll be put into the circular buffer. So that way, when I update the screen, it's not constantly probing memory and stuff. Provides a very good perspective. Excellent. Currently typing in live stream chat while driving 65 miles per hour down the freeway. That's probably a violation of some law. Make sure you comply with all laws. And distracted driving is also not a particularly wholesome law to break. I'm not a huge fan of. I support people's right to do dangerous activities that endanger your own life, but driving is one of those things that if you're a distracted driver, that not only affects you but other people on the road. The morale will improve when Calzone block is added. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to think. That could be if foods are added eventually. Calzone might be one of the first ones. Robert, do you stream on Twitch? I do not. It is on my to-do list to attempt. I should really multi-stream, but it's when I'm trying to finish. When I'm trying to finish something, I try to just block out everything else and work on only that. So I think within the next few days, I will probably finish the next release of this block mining thing, and then I will graduate onto other things, which actually honestly probably won't be trying out Twitch, but we'll keep that on the to-do list. Ideally, I'd have more hardware. Are views still up on normal? Oh, that's an interesting question. The views are extremely high today. It's like on I think they're the highest they've been in like the last month. So that's consistent with the theme we've talked about, because for the last 3 days there's been zero chat revenue, but I think ad revenue yesterday, or I guess maybe I didn't look at the breakdown, but it's between like whatever membership revenue is and ad revenue is like just under $50 for the last 2 days, with no chat revenue. What happens if you turn on monetization? Originally I did have it on for the live streams, but with live streams, so if I turn on monetization, I have to confirm that this is appropriate for monetization. So like that it complies with, does not have like inappropriate themes and all that kind of stuff. And especially since I have the live stream chat in this thing, I don't have the ability to guarantee that. And I know that generally speaking, I think it's a kind of a common thing that people don't, for like, especially people who like clip stuff. So people will do like the live stream is like that's just where they kind of bulk produce stuff. But when they monetize it, they'll clip it and then they make sure they like sanitize and censor the chat, or like they have like a bit of time to look at it. Because I think if I do have a live stream that's monetized, like the live stream monetization makes almost nothing anyway. On the VODs, it gets like a couple of cents a day, because once I do a live stream, it gets like almost no views. But I think that if I declare that it's monetizable, and then YouTube then later finds something in the by now it's probably like several hundred hours of live streaming content, like some random word or something, and then it puts says like this is flagged not monetizable, but I've declared that it's monetizable. I think that like screws up the algorithm, so that later when I have like totally sanitized content and declare it's monetizable, that it has less trust. Will YouTube strike you if someone says a no word? That's a good question. I've actually never received any kind of monetization penalty on any of my videos. And I think most of my other videos, like the main pretty much every other long form video I've done, I think there's basically nothing controversial in there. I think they're, in my opinion, they're like totally monetizable. So I want to keep it that way. And because, like, you know, there have been several handfuls of things, as you guys have seen, who have been here consistently, that, you know, so I can't control what happens and what shows up in the chat, which is kind of ironic though, because like YouTube themselves is censoring the chat, as we've seen, even for like long-time users who want to talk about a collapse or something, but then other people can post like, you know, inappropriate words and stuff. So I don't really know how it works, to be honest. But since the live stream, like, I'm not missing out much by not turning on monetization. Like the super chat revenue on streams has been like way higher. It's been like more than an order of magnitude higher. So, Robert, how are you? So consistent and focused. I mean, that claim is almost questionable. I guess I've been reasonably consistent for the last 50 something days, but I had been doing longer streams, but then I don't know where my time goes in the last. Well, I guess I've been doing a little bit of work on this during the day and then getting distracted with other things, but it also helps to have like a streak. So I've been doing this for 54 consecutive days, but if I stop tomorrow, that'll be the last one. So I got to keep going. But yeah, it seems like the most monetizable strategy seems to be people do the live streams, and then they take the live stream and like chop it out and edit it and stuff, which kind of makes sense, because that way you can edit out the pauses and stuff. Termux, I use it to fish my account. I'm not sure what you mean by that statement. Do you mean like Termux? Is that a terminal emulator, or when you say fish? Like as in like phishing is, as I understand it, is when you like send someone an email and you're like, click on this link for a prize, and then they click on it and then you steal their credentials or something. Termux mobile app. Okay. Okay, so it's a terminal on Android. You said use it to fish your account. Hacking my own account. I don't know what that means. What do you mean by hacking your own account? And like phishing is when you trick someone. But if you're phishing yourself, earlier I sent my message via voice to text, and there was nobody around the road. Excellent. That means you complied with all local laws. Yeah, just to test it. Interesting. I guess I don't really know. Don't quite know what you mean by phishing your own account, but hi, I right now saw your video about making CPU. Excellent. I can spread the word about how to make CPUs so people won't have to go to the store and buy their own all the time. Monitor's glitching out again. Still don't quite know if it's the monitor or the cable, but it keeps shutting off, and then I can't see the chat. I just joined. What's happening? Currently, I'm working on some test cases for a terminal-based block mining video game. It's a terminal-based game where you wander around an infinite procedurally generated universe and simulate the process of mining blocks of iron and metal ore. And I'm currently working on a data structure to make it a bit more efficient for loading regions of the world. Probably cable, it's common. Yeah, I think my guess is maybe the metal contacts are wearing off, but it's also kind of, I think I'm like flexing the monitor PCB every time I put the cable in, so. Actually, it made me think I could probably buy, I think there's like you can buy like an HDMI cable switcher, so I might buy something like that, which may or may not improve the situation. Could be wear and tear for sure. Yeah, I switch the cable every day, so it's been switched 54 times now. Walmart has a 27-inch widescreen monitor for 180 CAD. Or just pick up an HDMI cable. Yeah, actually I have, for this cable, I ordered 2 of them. I could also maybe try a shorter one. I find this one is actually quite long, so I think it's not longer than it needs to be, but that might fix it up. What is a good branch of engineering according to you? Mathematics, computing? I mean, they're all pretty good. Depends what you're optimizing for. If you're optimizing for the workforce or in terms of salary or It depends what the job market is in your area. I would say, I mean, still probably software engineering is probably one of the ones with there's the highest like liquidity in the job market. I think there might be relative to the recent history, there might be a slight increase for like electrical engineering, because I think there's electrical engineering has been neglected for a long time, and I think now with AI, a lot of the like the kind of junior entry level stuff probably will face competition. It'll be maybe harder to get into, but right now I think for like entry level electrical engineering with like breadboards and prototyping circuits and stuff, AI is like non-existent there. Like you might use it at your day job, but I would say for like entry level electrical engineers, there's going to be like 0% of those jobs are being replaced by AI. Because even if you get desperate as an electrical engineer, you can maybe pivot into like a trades electric. Screwed up big and deleted a password. Now I have to go to VP of Engineering. Yeah, that's the worst. I mean, it could be. It could be worse. You could have like messed up something on production. Those are the worst when you have to own up to, some kind of fat finger thing, and that is a customer impact. In terms of future, which branch would be more suitable? Suitable to whom and under what conditions? I think it probably also depends what country you're into, and we're just like if you're mainly think about jobs and getting employment, which is kind of the default thing that I think most people think of. If you come from a rich family, though, and you can afford to kind of spend years and years and years doing a PhD, then you might have different goals. 19 years old, just started exploring. Okay. Yeah, I would say software engineering or electrical engineering is probably still pretty good. Computer science, I think, if you really want to go into the engineering stuff, there is, like, I think right now there is an oversupply of software developers, and they say that AI is going to replace software developers and stuff like that. I think it's going to make it way harder for entry level people, but very likely we may go through like a couple of years of where we say, oh, there's, the industry's dead and stuff like that. So if you're starting now, like, I know there's a decrease in enrollment now, but now might be the time to start, because in 4 years, if you graduate into a good job market, like if you start the degree while the market's bad and then graduate into the good economy, when it recovers in 4 years, if it recovers, it might take even more than that, though. It might be, it might take like 7 years or something for the market to fully recover. So it's hard to say. Some of it's about timing the market if you're just focused on getting the jobs. It depends also what you have an interest in. If you also have, I think if you also have a lot of interest in electrical engineering, then it might make sense to do, like you could go into embedded systems or something, or like more of the electrical engineering. In that way, you could try to do like a kind of high qualified, more academic career. But if that doesn't work, you could always just do like residential electrical work. So if you're a certified electrical engineer, you can certainly get a job doing trades. And that is definitely not going to be automated in the next like 5 years or so. Because you always need humans to hold the wires and stuff. Then, of course, there's also the other engineering, so mechanical engineering and civil engineering and structural engineering and stuff. If you're interested in or have experience with construction and stuff, you can also look into that, but that's outside my domain. Doing EE means I can go into semiconductor. Yeah, that's another way to pivot. I would say if for semiconductor industry, it's a very you are right. I would say there's actually, like, the semiconductor industry is quite diverse. So I'd say there's 3 primary categories where, like, you could spend your entire career just focusing on that aspect of semiconductor engineering. So the electrical engineers would focus on things like the block diagrams for like register transfer logic, and maybe doing like kind of block diagrams, figuring out like how the silicon should be laid out, and like calculating like the condensed matter physics around like ion gaps and stuff like that, and the doping concentrations and stuff. And there's a whole ton of science around the semiconductor physics, and then the other end of that is an electrical engineer would come up with a design for how a semiconductor should be laid out, and then a chemical engineer you could write like PhDs on the chemical engineering process of how to actually lay that out. So you need to know what chemicals to put, things like the rate of reaction, like if you put if you expose the wafer to like some kind of etchant, how long do you expose it for? What temperature do you expose it at? What concentration of chemicals how to achieve like a certain doping concentration. That stuff is not electrical, but that's more chemical engineering. And then the final end of that would be just like kind of a classical physicist specialized in optics. So you could do a whole bunch of PhDs on the advanced optics of like, how to do 2 nanometer scale features with like super advanced optics. Because some of like the photomasks for the smallest features levels, you have to design the photomask. You have to computationally predict how the image will be projected, so the mask doesn't actually match. You have to like think about the wavelength of light and how it's going to bend around the corners of the mask and stuff. Toast Stack says, Lukey. Thank you for that info. Interesting. This stuff excites me. I have a couple videos about my how to make a CPU video has lots of views, but if you check my channel, I have a search for I've a few videos that I took of like some close-ups of chips, but of microchips, but they don't get many views. They only got like a couple thousand. I have a big loogie in my nose. Congratulations. If you just observe where each transits the mask, you won't know of its momentum, and the interference pattern will fall away where each photon transits. Yeah, once you get close to, once the like size of the mask pattern is close to like the wavelength of light, you end up needing to you do like quantum mechanical predictions and stuff of where it's going to end up, and then also you have to at that scale you also have to take into account like the chemistry of like how the photons are absorbed by the photosensitive chemicals and stuff, and so like every single last detail has to be calculated to like the limits of precision, because getting like a few more % accuracy and figuring out how much exposure time you want is going to have this like compounding effect on like what is the yield for how much your how many of your processors fail and stuff. It's a lot of work. Count me out. You don't want to make your own? No, it's easy. Just go back and watch my video. TBH, my high school grades were bad. I was also not able to go to college. All my friends are already to good colleges. Feels like I am a failure most times. I failed grade 10, and my high school grades were pretty bad. The way I got into University of Waterloo, I applied as a mature student, and they first recommended that I take these like refresher courses. So I spent a year doing these like distance ed courses, and I got a decent mark in those. That was actually, technically though, that was a bit before the University of Waterloo kind of, its reputation went up a lot, so it became way more competitive after that. And actually they denied my application originally, and then my father insisted on like calling them and asking them why. And I was like, don't bother with it. But we called, and then I got on a wait list, and then I got in late. So it was kind of a miracle that I got in. Yeah, I would say, and there's still, if you're intrinsically motivated to do stuff and to do, to do the work and assignments and stuff. I also took time off after university, so that kind of like, I worked like a normal minimum wage job somewhere for a little while, and that kind of just gave me time to think and study on the side. Grandparents paid me for good grades. Worked wonders. Brother didn't care. Went to a 2-year university and mostly issued associate's degrees. Yeah, fate can... there's small things that can have a significant impact on where things end up for you. Let's see if this compiles. All right, that compiled. So good to see you. Daily streaming gives me energy. Excellent. Yeah, I've got my I've got a decent streak going, so I guess I have to keep it going. Robert is the Gump of coders. Or star for motivation randos. I don't know. There's a lot of people that code every day. I mean, there's at least a few of them on Twitch, on the coding channel, that I see there every day. Don't know any other programmers who've done 54-day sprint. There was like a 100 days of code, or like the advent of code or something. That was a trend I saw trending. It was like 100 days of coding around Christmas or something. Did you forget codes? Justin Green now? I'm not sure if that's a question for me or... All right, that ran and did not crash, which is good. Advent of code is only 30 days. For you, Robert. Do you forget codes or just in green now? I guess I mean I forget how to. I often have to look up stuff, but I find after doing it for a while, it just becomes a matter of like I can always. Maybe I forget the details, but I can just kind of Google documentation and. I guess once you learn enough things, there's you get to a point where you stop learning things that like blow your mind, and the work just becomes tedious more than difficult. Like once you learn the basics of a language, there's like a few different. Weird pieces of syntax sugar and stuff. There's not really, every language just does stuff. It has its own like weird way of doing things, but it's very, very few new concepts. And I guess in terms of algorithms, sometimes you learn about a new algorithm, and it totally I would say one thing is like, for example, graph theory. If you do a course on graph theory, I did a course on graph theory in university, and that was really hard. That really blew my mind. But then after you go through that, spend hundreds of hours doing assignments, then it kind of gets burned in your mind. And then when you see a new graph theory problem, you're like, oh yeah, this is just a standard old graph theory problem. And like you don't necessarily solve it fast, but you're like, okay, I'll just read the Wikipedia page, spend another 100 hours figuring this out. GitHub never forgets. Yeah, GitHub is a decent, or Google or Stack Overflow or ChatGPT these days. My monitors are glitching out again. Happened to me when I was learning permutation and combination in mathematics. Yeah, permutation and combinations, that's one of those areas. And like it really, for me it was challenging, but then you just kind of grind away at it and then it gets imprinted in your mind. Have you ever used a fountain pen? I think so. I've tried a lot of different pens because I find it very difficult to find a type of pen you can buy that'll consistently write. Because every single time I try to grab a pen to write something down, it doesn't work. I've gone to great pains to try and, I even bought some expensive pens to try and find something that would consistently write. Robert, what level of calculus is good for engineering? I mean, if you do an engineering degree, they will just kind of, set you up with the courses. I think you might have, I think I went up to calculus 2, and then I had some other courses that were, I had calculus 2. I don't know if I had like another, I don't know if another one that was maybe even not called calculus or something, but I guess you said you're 19, so you're, if you've just done high school. So I actually, when I graduated high school, I thought I was kind of well prepared because I tried to actually study a bit. Like I didn't have great marks, but I tried to actually study and learn the concepts. My high school teacher handed out some extra stuff about like more advanced calculus, and I remember I spent time learning it. So I thought I was well prepared. But then I did these like refresher courses in order as a condition of getting accepted to Waterloo, and I thought those were supposed to be. I thought that was going to put me really ahead when I came to university, but when I actually started, I found that my actual high school education did not prepare me at all for the University of Waterloo, and I'm sure I would have failed out if I had gone right from high school to here. I just was not. My high school was just not good enough. But I think we, I think that included the basic stuff. Included like lots of knowledge of like logarithms and stuff, logarithm rules, derivatives of like e to the x, and some slightly more like maybe even what was it? The chain rule, or the power rule, or there's a couple different calculus rules that I think we that I didn't really learn in high school that were kind of expected. Depending on where you study, I think they'll kind of like they'll touch on some of those things, and they'll be like, just to refresh your memory, you probably already know this, and then they'll do stuff. And if you don't know it, then you have to go really fast to catch up. Fountain pens are picky about angles. Found to just valuable pen, like a Pilot G2. Yeah, I actually I experimented a bit with I bought a bunch of random pens on eBay, and I finally found one that kind of worked a bit. But then I think they dried out. You don't need Calc 3 for CS. But for engineering, you should take Calc 3. Yeah, I think it's relevant depending on what you end up working on in your career. But like if you're just doing like a web programming at Facebook or something, a lot of the calculus you learn is probably kind of wasted knowledge. But if you do, for example, electrical engineering, then the calculus will come in handy. I'm sure at least you will be better off to understand it because so many physical things rely on calculus. Not Cosmic says cent. I'm not sure what is cent, but that's good to know. Advanced level calculus is good. Yeah, it's hard to really explain without going through a detailed list of topics. All right, my unit tests caught something. WTF. My monitor is still shutting off. Hopefully it doesn't totally give out on me. It shut off for a good 10 seconds there. It didn't come back on. It's jiggling around. I guess it doesn't do that with my other computer, so it was probably the cable. It was I know it was finicky. I had to adjust the screen refresh rate a few times because on 60 hertz it didn't work. I had to decrease the refresh rate. HDMI cable, indeed. So it's taking the value at location 4, and when I update the region, it's resizing it. But it looks like there's it's supposed to initialize any areas in the buffer that are not explicitly supposed to store data are supposed to be overwritten. But it's not doing that. I saw about Lady Ada Lovelace. Took a glimpse of her work. It was full of binomial and all math stuff. And how she is the first programmer. Would you explain? I think she was an assistant to what was it, Charles Babbage or something, and she was, I guess, considered one of the first female programmers, because she worked on, I think it was the analytical engine. So back in those days, it was like in the 1800s. They when they had like the first. Like you can do computation in analog with gears, which is not I mean, that sounds sophisticated, but basically if you just take like a gear, and if you have like a gear ratio of like 1 to 10, you can rotate a gear. You can basically count, so you can rotate a gear one way, and then it'll rotate one gear, and if the gear ratio is 10 to 1, then it rotates the other one 10 times. And then if you like disengage the gears and move them around, and if you can have a physical system that actually like it emulates the computation. So I don't think they even made it. They started work on a small one or something, and it was like a theoretical mechanical computer. Charles Babbage, and she was daughter of Lord Byron. Yeah, I don't remember her full history, but I know she was. She's cited as being one of the first female programmers. Because back in those, if you go back to 1800s, that was about the closest thing you could do to programming. And I think actually, in the military actually used analog computation for a lot of stuff. It was used actually. If you there's a very, very good, interesting YouTube video. I assume it's still up. If you search on YouTube for military training video, analog computer battleships or something, there's some really it's like this really, they don't make documentaries and analytical videos like that anymore. And it talks about all the how the analog computer works on ships, and it's used for calculating like if the ship is moving at a certain rate, how should you change the aim of a gun on a battleship and stuff. Physical computers, those must have been nutty. Seen pics from 1900s. Giant ones on the size of entire rooms. Yeah, I mean the early computers were. I mean, it's in a way it's almost a stretch to compare them to modern computers, but I mean they did work. And in a lot of cases they just did like simple math calculations. Because to do anything more sophisticated than that, then it would just take too much space. Computers were mechanical, electrical, and now digital. Yeah, you can do computation like analog computers do computations like by analogy. So you can use what is it? I think op amps You can do like addition of numbers, but using op amps. You just like create a voltage that is the analog to, based on some scale of how much, you just have like 1 volt represents 1, 2 volts represents 2, or it could be 0.5 volts represents 1, or and then you just sum them together with op amps and stuff. And but it requires all kinds of design and calculus and stuff like that. But you can make these solid state devices that do computation by analogy. So the initial region is 3 to 9. That gets stored at the value 4. For value 1. That should not be 0, I don't think. So it was at 4, and it got moved 3 to 0, so it would be at 1. So that should be this value, not the default value of 0. See someone's hearting and liking the stream. We're up to 9 likes. So if it's executing this branch, that means it's not in this array, or in this set, or map. I guess my relocation of a code maybe isn't working. Should really make more videos? Yes, I should. But I'm doing this right now though. I'm gonna try to stay focused on get to the next release. Like the most popular ones, they're pretty funny. Yeah, the thing is, I try to just approach it as like making a good video, but I have a lot of videos that I put a ton of work into that I think they're good videos. Like I actually don't really think there's a strong relationship between how good my video is and how many views it gets. Because I know some of the most viewed ones are quite good, but there's other ones that I think are, they're like 90% good as the other ones, and they only get like a few thousand views. And I would like to do more of them, but they just don't. They're not bringing in enough money. But this streaming has been an experiment. So I've been doing. That's one of the other reasons I've been doing this. Every day for 54 days, just to like gain data on like how much revenue does it bring in, what kind of viewership does it get. But at the same time, I'm also learning like, can I just do, can I do useful work while I stream? ITK, what YouTube promotes? Yeah, there's an element of randomness. I do think it is. It seems on average it's accurate, but it almost seems to like there's it almost seems like there's like a random probability attached to your video. So like the more if your video is really good, it has like a high chance of going viral. But then if it's bad, it has a low chance. But there's also like some chance that you make a really good video and it just doesn't get much traction. And there's also the trends too, like for certain times. Like I've noticed some of my videos that are decent will get like crazy numbers of views, and that's like the views just like abruptly shut off for no reason. It's fun to tune in. I got nothing to do. 11 p.m. Yeah, I think a lot of people consume the streams like they're just like, oh, what's he up to now? And they'll check in like once every 10 days or something. I can see the appeal in that because you get to see the progress overall. So we stored this value at 4. So I guess that would mean that would be at index 1 in the array. I think you should do a podcast. I thought about, I had some ideas for some people I could interview just to like, I probably wouldn't do a regular one. I might just do like one or two. Because a lot of people do podcasts and then maybe have like one or two good episodes. And then after that, it's like, they're kind of like scraping, they're not prepared and it's not interesting. And they're like, hey, so what do you do on the weekend and stuff? And there's no point to it. Quite an undertaking, though. Yeah, it is a surprisingly large amount of work just to get all the batteries charged up and go to a location and schedule a time and set the cameras up and record the footage. And Christopher says hello. How's it going? So I think my relocation code is wrong. For tonight, enjoy the suffering of coding. Thanks, I will. Checking in before I get some sleep. Have some work in the morning. Have a good night. Coding is fun and satisfying. And when it's done, it's so rewarding. That's especially true for personal projects or like something you're working on and controlling of your own. Although when you go into the corporate world, it's not quite as there's a lot of meetings and nonsense and lots of rush deadlines. And I find one of the big issues in the corporate world is like you always want to there's always issues with the code. Like I always want to fix the bugs and the problems in the code, but they're like, nope. Now that it just barely works, we have to switch to another thing. You know, the internet is filled with resources on learning to code, but where are some good sites or books to get restarted? Honestly, I would say number one place now would be YouTube. I mean, there's so many there's so many places to even ask the question. There's ChatGPT and YouTube and Google and stuff, like where to get started. Having said that, though, the best answer is maybe, like if you haven't already found what you're looking for on YouTube or Google, it probably makes sense to ask a question about like, I guess what are your objectives to learn how to code? Are you like a high school student and you're just interested in knowing if this is a good career path, or how is the game coming along now? Do you find the bug you showed yesterday? before the Irish exit. I guess technically it wasn't quite a bug. I'm just working on writing some unit tests to get my new data structure working. And I made some progress on it today, but I'm just adding like a ton of test cases to it. And I might have found a bug in the data structure, but then right now I need to verify if it's a bug in the data structure or a bug in the test that is testing the data structure. Currently I have it almost working just for like the one-dimensional circular buffer, but then I can pretty easily generalize the existing code that I have to be 2 dimensions and then hopefully 3 dimensions. And then once I have that data structure, then I think it will not take too much time to swap that in for the map area. And then that is the last major feature. There might be a couple of bugs after that to fix though. Books. Books are, I have nothing against books, but the internet is it's so much easier to consume stuff online. Would you rather a tree grow or grow a tree? Is that what you meant to say? Currently unemployed, so I have a lot of free time right now. I would treat it as a hobby. Do you recommend that at the moment? I don't plan to use coding professionally. I guess if you want to just code for the love of it, I guess it depends what kind of mind you have. I think there's someone said something to me once about like that. There are like two general types of programmers. There's like the mathematician or the engineer, and so if you I guess it depends. Are you more interested in like mathematical things and number theory and like doing calculations on paper, or are you interested in like taking things apart, like physical things and tinkering with stuff and like debugging stuff and like text, like process of elimination to debug where an issue is coming from? Is depending on those two tinkering. So that would put you more on the engineer trajectory as opposed to the more mathematical strategy. I would say that for the approach for the mathematical thinker would be like read textbooks, memorize the formulas and stuff like that. For that, I would probably have recommended stuff like LeetCode, which is it's a whole community of people to do that. For tinkering, I would say probably if you're a tinkerer and you are more engineering minded, I would say find some code on GitHub for something interesting, like an open source game or something, and then like just download the code, try to get it running, and then start like randomly changing the code and try to figure out how it works. So find some code for something that works, that you find interesting, and then say, you know what, I'm going to change this slowly to suit my own needs. Like it could be, I don't know, start with something small, something like a card game or something, or just something that interests you that's like, say, like less than a few thousand lines of code, or even just yeah, I'd say probably, I would say a good place to start is probably with like games. So you could just do a Google search for like simple game in Python. And if I was going to recommend a language to you to get started with, probably Python is like the easiest if you're just getting started. Because eventually if you become if you spend a lot more time programming, you'll learn multiple languages. So yeah, probably start off with like just Google search for a simple game in Python, and then find something that's like just a few 100 lines of code or something you can copy and paste, and then try to get that running within Python. And if you don't know how to do that at all, I would say just Google search for how to run Hello World program in Python. Getting started with Python Hello World, and then if you can do that, then you'll probably be close to the point where you can just Google like 100 line video game in Python, and then just start like changing the code randomly until you figure out how to code. That's my advice. Would we be able to play our game when it's done on Android? Lua, is it better or worse than Python? I don't have an opinion on Lua. For my understanding, I know it's I think it's used to like make interfaces in games a lot, but or to like provide the user with some configurable stuff on their end. I've never actually programmed Lua. And as for your question about playing the game, you can. The source code is available on GitHub. You can go down to the. There's a link in the description for it. So no PS4 decompile projects or emulators. I did tackle C++ many years ago in college. Also did some assembly. That was tough. Okay, thank you for your time. Okay, so you've actually done some programming before. Yeah, so if you have some experience on C++ and assembly, then you're probably well past being able to get Hello World to compile. I would say then what you probably need more than anything is like is a goal. I guess if you're unemployed, you can think about how could what you're working on lead toward getting employment or some kind of other next step. If you're not you mentioned like PS4 decompile projects or emulators. You could do that stuff if you want. I would say like the scope of those projects is very large. It's not so much that they're impossible. It's just you have to spend like tons and tons of time. And if you don't complete it, I'd say if you're early on, one of the most important things is building confidence. So if you tackle a project that's smaller in scope, every time you get that little like dopamine hit from when it finally works, like if you're stuck for 2 hours and then you get it to work, you're like, oh, this is great. I can do this. I can handle this. But if you do some like a very large project at once and spend like weeks and weeks and weeks on it and then don't finish it, you'll be like, maybe this isn't for me. And you may never actually learn what the issue you were stuck on was. Agile development? Yeah, I guess more or less that's the approach you could take. So I was getting an exception down here. Oh, I didn't notice Christopher's response. It's probably good too. Okay, this is where it goes wrong. So size is different. This may not be right. Lua fulfills. I might add scripting to my project. And it's lightweight. Pythonic fulfills. I want to write program. It's big and complex. I think I should learn Lisp. I've never taken the time to learn Lisp. No worries, helped me a lot. Trying to teach myself. Self-proclaimed MIT gurus, not compared to structured university courses, even if limited access. I've been in the loop in comp.sci. What's the deal with Rust? I'm not a Rust fan. I don't have any comments on that, but I'm sure lots of people will chime in. Using LLMs to build and test functions really helped me solidify understanding of some concepts. I'll look into it now that I have all the time in the world. Yeah, having control over your time is awesome. So element 1 here should actually become see, that was, I think, 3 to 8 before. Now it's, or no, 3 to 9. So 0, I think, should map to so when I is 0, this display stack should be 3. Nope. I think this is wrong too. Now let's see if that is correct. Almost sneezed. What are you doing? I'm currently working on debugging a test case for my terminal-based block mining game. All right, that's maybe better. that's wrong. It's supposed to be the new buffer. All right, let's try this out. Nope, still errors. I don't know what that statement is that's not English. It's a reminder that this is an English-only chat, so I can ban people who say bad things in other languages. Iranian calzone enthusiast. That sounds like nonsense to me. Asking if man speak Farsi. Well, it's an English chat, so all right, that still has a bug, so let's do another debugging session. I have some Iranian friends. I was invited to a wedding. It was canceled. Yeah, I mean, that's yeah, I don't know what to. It's one of those topics that it makes sense to avoid for the chat, because I can imagine discussing that will go downhill quickly. But I mean, it's a huge deal. It's easy to forget. Like I think most people don't really think much about. In the West, don't think much about Iran. It's just like one of those Middle Eastern countries, but the population of Iran is not like 90 million or something. I think that's what it was last time I looked. It's a massive country. So I don't know, hopefully everything just settles down and then all the wars go away. And then we can all just go back to writing computer programs. So I think when this is finished, that will be, this last element should get cut off. And there should be, I think, three items at the start that have to be initialized. So 83 and 96. 83, okay, that's correct. Okay, so that looped around, which it's not supposed to do. Some of the best people I know personally. Yeah, I mean, with 90 million people, there's bound to be some great people there. I mean, back before, when we had like more normal immigration in the West, there was definitely a lot of great people from every country, but things have gone downhill, and our immigration seems to be pretty unfiltered recently. Endless war is disheartening to see, at the very least. Friend lives here, but much of the family is in Iran. Yeah, I mean, like, I keep going back to the fact that the population of Iran is so huge. Like the number of people that probably know someone in Iran is around the world is going to be huge. Yeah, I mean, to me, the long-term progression of that is more concerning. Like, hopefully things can stabilize in the near term, because if they don't, then, yeah, I don't know. I don't have any particular geopolitical insight on this. Okay, so I should be less than the old size. Yeah, that might work. Let's try that. We're doomed. Getting ready for a world without internet or electricity. That might be a good plan. Even relative experts don't know what's going on. My professor thought Brexit was a nothing burger. Yeah, European politics is its own crazy thing. Hoping aliens will stop us from killing ourselves with nukes. Hopefully. That's our only hope now. Where's my... Where's my cursor thing? Oh, maybe it went below 0. Okay, that's why. Oh, that's why. Oh, it went further. Maybe it's actually working. Well, it's 12:41. I made a little bit of progress. I still have some messed up stuff in my indexes, I think, for setting the initialized values. But I think I will call it a night. And we'll be back tomorrow around the same time for day 55. So have a good night, everyone.